I got two of I don't know how to describe these two ladies, but they are some of the best female officers I've ever worked with. And I thought a good way to start this introduction is that one of the things that they also do, as well as being officers, is they also train the up and coming officers. And so I want them to start out with a little back and forth about what it's like to teach new recruits in officer survival.
What is it like to herd cats? I mean,
so tell us a little bit about what you do and how they react to y'all in general. I've gotten used to you, and even now it's like it still shocks me a little bit. So what is it like
of
for
the
y'all?
things we say?
Not just in general.
Well, so I guess to explain what officer survival is for those that don't know, it's basically like the big thing at the end of the police academy where you're going to back-to-back scenarios that are, real life calls for service you may answer. And what happens is the recruits are paired up with what's called an escort, and they take them around to each scenario where there's role players, and they act out the scenario, and the officer basically has to put together everything they've learned within that last 6 months. So that's kind of like what officer survival is. But it's definitely been interesting.
So what role did you play?
So I've done both. I've done role player, which is fun because you get to wrestle and fight and stuff. And then now I'm an escort.
But you're a girl. You don't like to fight, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen her
that's
fight.
why you're both. That's why you're both here, is because I want to hear from a female what it's like.
Do they like to fight? Yes, and we fight dirty.
And you're good at it. I think Jordan, didn't you have somebody that was complaining about how rough you were with them? You made somebody cry, a grown man, I think.
Probably a couple times at least.
And those are just the people. That's just the people you work with.
Yeah.
So anyway, I am really glad both of y'all are here. Tell us a little bit about how. I'll start with you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Or, Jordan, go first, whichever way you want to go. But just talk about where you grew up and how you ended up in law enforcement. And a little bit of a twist. I think, especially when y'all first entered this, I would say, did you have family members that are like, this is not traditional? You're a girl. You should not be out here with the grown-ups.
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I was born in Virginia, but grew up in a military family.
Okay.
So, majority
what branch?
The Navy.
Okay.
I know.
No. Navy's a good branch.
I know.
They take care of their people.
They do.
Yes.
So, grew up and my dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
Majority of my childhood was in Florida.
Okay.
He retired. They're from this area, so they wanted to come back home. They've never had the opportunity to do that. So, I moved back to Virginia when I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
I've always wanted to do police work, always grew up interested in it. It did not surprise my parents one bit. So I never really faced any of we're worried about you because, you're a girl, or I never had that.
They saw you grow up fighting, right?
No, actually.
Or winning. You didn't fight when you were little?
No. That's the twist. It's I'm very not confrontational. My waiter brings me something wrong. I'm like, thank you so much. And
Okay. Well, I want to get back to how we make that transition to thrive in law enforcement. Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Nelson County.
Okay.
My dad was a police officer. He retired a couple of years ago, 30-year career. So growing up, I kind of grew up in a police car, the front seat. Of a police car. Not the back.
But that wouldn't be surprising, though.
Yeah, not the back. But, for the longest time, watching him and everything, he had all this cool stuff. He got to go out at nighttime. And back then, law enforcement was a lot different. You could actually do your job. Right. To a different degree. So for the longest time growing up, I thought my dad was Batman until I realized we weren't rich and we had a mediocre basement. But, they weren't surprised when I grew up, to become a police officer. I think the denial came when I graduated college and came home, and I was like, hey, I just got a job at the sheriff's office. And they didn't talk to me for a couple days.
Both of them were upset with you.
They were scared.
Okay.
Because
that's understandable.
My dad, with his career and everything, he had a few snafus there where he was actually injured and had to endure some things. And my mom, living with him, doing it, now she has her baby going out, she's like, you could have been anything else, but they got over it. They both have been very supportive of me and have always supported me in everything I've done.
So they've somewhat embraced like, okay, this is your choice. So talk about, Sid, I'm going to let her go first this time. Talk about what it was like when you started at the sheriff's office, you went into the academy. What was the academy like for you?
I was exhausted by the time I got there already mentally because I just graduated college, but I had this mindset like, if you're going to do it, you just need to go because I was worried that if I took a break, I would never do it.
Okay.
So I just kind of powered through those 6 months. I wasn't really nervous about the physical part. I was more so nervous about, having to learn everything like from scratch, because you see it on TV and it's like, oh, that looks easy. And then you get into it and it's like, this is a lot to remember. And it's a huge responsibility. So for me, it was just being able to pay attention and stay in the mental game, because once I got out, I just wanted to be the best officer I could be.
Okay. What was it like for you at the academy?
I enjoyed it. It is like what she said. It's a lot to learn. And I think for me, it was a lot of like self-reflection.
Okay.
Because you never know if you're going to be capable until basically your feet hit the fire.
Okay.
And so I remember in the academy just thinking, do I have what it takes? Can I do this? And honestly, like officer survival, that's where everything clicked. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I got this. Yeah.
Okay. You think that influenced you in the decision to like train other officers in officer survival?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I can actually do this.
And I think it helps, especially when we have recruits that are in officer survival. Like you can tell a female officer stuff until you're blue in the face, but sometimes it may not click like it does if it comes from another female officer.
Right. So describe that. Like, what does that mean? Like, I feel like somewhat as a mentor, like, hey, you can do this. I've done it. I have fought. I've done exactly all these dudes that are in here instructing you. I've done the same thing that they've done, and I've come out of it. And I'm a female. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you can do this. And I think sometimes too, something that I've seen is a lot of, I think society says this, and I think we've seen it in the female recruits, is a lot of like meekness.
Okay.
And I don't want to say like they're scared to like raise their voices, but it's almost like I want to be polite. So it's just trying to explain like you can be polite and professional and still take control of a situation. Okay. And like things like that. Does that make sense? Would you agree?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I mean, my big thing, especially with female recruits, is when you can kind of sense when they're not feeling comfortable or they're really, really timid. And you usually give them a go at it to see where they're at, but then I'll just pull them aside. And I mean, I don't want to say I'm mean, but it's more of a stern talk. Like, when you get out here on the street,
you're not my mom. You're being so mean to me.
Right, right.
But somebody has to have that conversation. It's not a conversation they want to have on the side of the road with somebody.
Yeah. When you get out on the street, you're probably going to be by yourself for what feels like an hour, even if you're not. And you have to be able to hold your own, because in the academy, we care about them. We want to see them succeed, but it's not like that on the street. No one's going to have your back but you sometimes.
So can either one of y'all think of any conversation that you had with a recruit or something that you're like, it clicked, and then you see them later and you're like, man, this actually worked?
Yeah. So a couple of classes ago at Officer Survival, there was a female recruit that was struggling. Okay. And sometimes when you're getting corrected, depending on your personality, you get more and more in your head, right? Yeah, it's like, I'm messing up, I'm messing up.
You're overwhelmed and you're in a zone.
Yeah. And she was nice as can be. She had what I describe like a Disney princess voice. And it's just like, I pulled her aside and I'm like, you have got to find some command presence. You have to speak like you mean it. You have to go hands-on like you mean it. Like, and again, it was like one of those things where I feel like she was trying to be polite in the scenarios. And I'm like, when you're in a argument with your husband, like I know that's not how you sound. And she's like, no, you're right. And then it clicked. She went with a FTO. She was with our agency, went to our FTO, did a great job and, you know, did great. And so that was the first one where after FTO, I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, just to see that progress and her grow confidence and be like, oh yeah, I can do this. I got this.
So it has to be rewarding. I don't think people appreciate what people like you have done to make it easier for them, because like but you also have a lot of females that have like paved a way in a really negative way for you. And the expectation is like, oh God, I got to deal with a female. And I know from working with both of you, that is not the case. Like, I would take you any day over a lot of males. And it's just because you know how to deal with people. You know when it's time to go hands on, you know when it's time to go to work. What do you think, Jordan? Anything like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, similar situation. You know, I had one time, you know, she came in and just she would grab a hold of you and it wasn't there. You know, you could slip right out of it and kind of square up against her. And I took her out and I was like, you know, this can't happen, because you're going to get to a point once you get out here on the street, you know, your shift partners, they need you. You know, what if they're in a bad situation? I mean, you've got to be able to handle that. And we talked for like 5 minutes and, you know, it was kind of her last shot at it, you know, because it is stressful. It's testing. And I've never been a good test taker. I hate testing. I hate going to the range and shooting for score because I just have bad test anxiety, but I'm not a bad shot, you know, and that's what I was trying to get through to her. Like, you're good at this.
Right.
But we have to see it. And, you know, she goes out and the next thing I knew, I was looking at the ceiling. You know,
you're like,
she did
you got it. You got it.
You get through somehow. So
let me ask you this. And I think one of the benefits I've seen with working with females and dealing with them is I feel like y'all are a lot better than we are as males in just like in your description of being in the academy. How many dudes do you think are like, oh God, I don't know if I really belong here. I need to really like, they don't get stressed out. They're like, oh, I just want to do all the cool things. Like, y'all are very like analytical with what you do. You think through things, you think through all those things. And I feel like from my standpoint, as somebody that's done it for a period of time, like I do think that like, not only, it's not really a glass ceiling anymore, but it's almost like I have got to like, I think the description, I'm not going to tell you who said it, but you know who I'm married to. And she was like, I can't do my job like a dude would do because they're going to say I'm a bitch.
100%. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so talk about that. What is that like?
It's kind of frustrating.
You're good at your job, but you're a bitch.
Yeah, like I can think of a prime example of, this was like years ago. I sent an email out. It was very professional. Because, you know, I even get people to check to make sure it's not bitchy before I send it out, you know?
Right.
And somebody came up to me and they're like, damn, that was kind of like bitchy. And I'm like, oh, like why? Like, what? Like, because I want to correct it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if this is...
And they're like, no. And they literally couldn't say anything. I mean, it was just professional. But because it came from me, it was being perceived as being bitchy. But if it would have come from you, it would have just been professional.
Okay.
So I can 100% understand where she's coming from because that's accurate. Like if I'm putting my foot down and telling you like, no, you have to do something like A, B, and C. Oh yeah, I can be potentially perceived as being bitchy.
What about you, Jordan?
Well, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where if you do your job and you do it well, you're a bitch. But if you're too nice, you're a slut.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, what would you like me to be?
Yeah,
because
like you can't win.
Yeah, you can't win sometimes. And it's like, you know, you will listen to a male all day long, you know, what he has to say, and you respect him for it. So why don't I get the same, you know, just because of my gender? Because, you know, I can do the same job. And
well, in many cases, I think you do it better. I just think like the way both of you have processed information. I know you worked in Intel for a while, Sid. You didn't? Investigations, but that is collecting information. Yeah. Like not going into a lot of detail. I know you were in investigations too, Jordan. Like look at your reports and then look at one of ours. Like honestly, like
that's so true.
Like seriously, like let's have an honest conversation.
Well, yeah, it'd be like asking my husband, like, tell me about this story, and he's giving me
bits
forward, and I'm like, well, what about this? What about? And he's like, I don't know, I didn't ask, and I'm like, well, then why are you telling me this story if you don't have all the information?
It makes you wonder how we ended up married. Like when it comes to our husbands, like their lack of detail.
Was a club involved? Like somebody knocked you over the head, drug you back, and they're like, now we're married. But no, like so seriously, like how do you deal with that? Like you don't want to be perceived as bitchy, but like you look at it and you're like, are you serious? Like I know I've dealt with some dudes before and I'm like, seriously, like I think if you wrote this report in crayon, I would respect you more because like my kid could do better than this. But then I look at my reports compared to someone. I've read your report. I've read your reports, Jordan. Let's smack it. Like, I've read your reports and it's like, the detail, it's like I don't have any questions at the end of it. But like other reports I write, and I don't do great writing reports. So that's another thing. So like, what is it like to sit there and the expectation is for you to like stay silent, be dainty, be whatever it is that our expectation is for you. What is it like to have the answer, but have to go through that thought process? And what is the thought process like for y'all to be like, I know the answer. Like, can I answer and make this better?
Do you want like honestly?
I want a no shit answer.
Like I don't give a fuck. Like, okay. And I mean that in a sense of like, don't confuse what I'm saying. It's like every man in my agency acts like that. Okay. They don't.
Okay. They know better. They've learned.
They don't act like that. It's only certain, it basically like, it depends on the type of man, but so it's really rare. But like, for example, that email, I said like the mail that came to me, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, and I'll tell him like, shut up, dude. Like, it's fine. But I don't feel like a sense of like, oh, like I know the answer or I don't know like if I have information that's going to better an investigation.
Yeah, better an investigation.
Yeah, right? It doesn't sound like I'm saying it.
Now you're stuck guessing. Like, what? I know. You get me in this chair and now I can't answer the question.
So good
or,
at words.
I know. He just jinxed me. Or,
I said you were decisive.
I know.
God. No, but.
Or if I have like information that's going to make a process or procedure better, like I'm not going to hold back because I didn't get promoted. I didn't get where I am from doing that.
Okay.
And I think, Jordan too, like I think we've earned credibility in our work ethic and work product where like those encounters are less and less.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. What about you, Jordan?
I think as females, you have to set the standard pretty early on in your career. Like you pretty much have to come right out of the gate with it. Like, one, you're not going to talk to me like I'm below you. That's not going to fly at all. So if we need to have that conversation right out of the gate, so be it, because I'm not going to treat, a male counterpart in that way. If you outrank me, then I respect you. If you're the same rank as me, I still respect you. It should be, no different whatsoever. And as far as comments, because you hear, not all of them, as Sid said, not all men are like that. Most are very respectful. I will say when I started in law enforcement on my shift, the guys were great to me. They treated me like one of the guys. They probably learned a few dirty jokes from me, honestly,
That's how you fit into that.
Yeah. Because you have to fit in and everything. But, they were great. They always kind of looked out for me, though, because, physically, I've always understood, I'm not as strong as a man. I know my limitations when it comes to, like, the physical aspect. But, I have a brain. And they kind of let me run with that. The same thing in investigations. So I've never had really someone come right out and insult me in that way. But we've been kind of at that line where I just went ahead and axed it, like right then and there.
So for both of you, what would you tell women getting into law enforcement? Like, how do you get to where you're at the right way and not be in a situation where, number one, people are looking at you like, I just think it would be very difficult as a minority in a department and you hear all this I just like when Trump, the attempted assassination, everybody was talking about that girl. But you know what? The one thing about that girl, that his Secret Service agent, she went to him. I don't give a shit if she isn't tall enough. She did exactly what everybody else did. In fact, if you watch the video, she's the one that's getting the train moving. Mm-hmm. And so it isn't, but how do you get through that when everybody in their brain is going like, oh, this is a diversity. This is that. Like with that going on, how do you get through that as a female? And you said, like what you said as far as females are concerned is like, I'm not physically, but if you're more aggressive than a bigger dude, guess what? Most people will back down.
Yeah. And I think it's about like understanding those things and then figuring out a way to work it towards your advantage. Like, I think we both know, like if you and I got into a physical fight, like you're stronger than me. but I can do other things and work other things to my advantage to win that fight. And you just have to understand and realize you and I cannot fight the same.
Right.
And I know if I'm talking to a 6'5" male that's nothing but muscle, like I'm going to probably have to do my best to de-escalate it verbally versus hands-on, which is what, most people should be doing anyways.
Right.
So I think it's understanding that.
So it's like an honest assessment of who you are, which helps you assess your situation.
Yeah. And I think bottom line is if you show up to work, you do a good job, you have earned the respect and trust of your coworkers, like nobody's going to care what gender you are. Like they just care about what type of work you put out.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
No, I agree with that. For me, it's always been about the work. That's all I've ever wanted to do is just work. Wherever you put me, I'm going to work.
That's
so
true.
We can work together or,
get out of my way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I think of a quote. It says, you might be on the right path, but if you don't get out of my way, I'm going to run over you. And I feel like both of y'all have that mentality of like, all right, just because you're a dude, you're still occupying a space that could be useful. Either get out of the way. And same thing for females. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the females that are in law enforcement and give y'all a bad name? They're like making dumb decisions. What does that do to y'all as far as female officers?
Well, I mean, it like pisses me off because it's like, well, shit, I've worked really hard to prove that I've gotten everything I've gotten where I'm at in my career because of my work product. And then here you go. And it's just like, come on, like seriously. But I'm imagine like you would feel the same way if you had a male officer do something dumb. Cause I mean, like you guys have your stereotypes too.
Yeah, like clubs.
Yeah, like
not like nightclubs. Like we're going to beat you into submission. Yeah, like and things like that.
Yeah, like you guys are just out there to beat people up and don't give a shit, asshole douchebags. Yeah, like so we face it, but so I would imagine like you would be pissed off too.
Yeah.
Just like that. The female cop that was all over social media. Because she had a lot of relations in her department, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like it does suck. It sucks because it's just like you're feeding into that stereotype.
It what?
So stop it.
Sorry, I had to walk you into that one. All right, well let that one go. All right, what about you, Jordan? What do you think?
I mean, it's frustrating because it's hard enough, trying to get started as a female in law enforcement and trying to hold your ground and go out there, and then something like that happens and you feel like you're back at square one because it's like, are you kidding me? We already really have that going for us. And now I feel like I'm in this category that I have to climb my way back out of.
I got to make up for what you did wrong.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your career, Sid. Like, where did you start? Like, you started in patrol, like, and talk about each one of the disciplines or areas that you worked in.
Yeah. So I started off in patrol. I was in patrol for roughly 2 years before I got promoted to detective of criminal investigations. And at our agency, that's, we're not divided by person or property crime. You kind of work a homicide or, felony embezzlement. You kind of work everything. At the time, it was not common to get a specialized unit that early on in your career, but I was very fortunate where openings came up, and like we had talked about, like I had worked hard, so I had a good reputation, and I was lucky enough to get into investigations. I was there for about 4 years, and then I got promoted to sergeant, I think in like 2021. And then at our agency, when we get promoted, you go back to the field. So I was a sergeant in the field for about a year. And then I got moved to personnel recruiting. So hiring people, recruiting, that type of thing. And then now I was in there for about 2 years, and I just recently got moved to, I'm over the forensics division.
Oh, that's really cool.
So.
All right. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, I started in patrol as well. I was there for about 2 years. So similar situation. And then I was approached by the sheriff, and he was like, what do you think about being a school resource officer? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. I was like, why do I need to go in the schools, or whatever? And he just felt I'd be good at it. And I mean, I thought about it, and I was like, well, it might be okay. I'll give it a shot. And I mean, it was a good time. Learned a lot. I started getting to some investigations because in the schools, that's kind of like a playground, no pun intended, for investigations with children, because you'd be surprised, you start building a rapport with kids. They just come right in your office and start talking to you, and they just tell you all kinds of things. And it's like, oh my gosh, So that's where I kind of got my niche for investigations. And I was like, I might be onto something here. I kind of want to pursue that. Started writing more and more search warrants on stuff, getting into like some phone, things. And, the opportunity came available, and I was promoted to criminal investigations as well.
Okay.
So,
all right. So what else did you do specialized during that time?
I got to go to the Forensic Academy. So I was a certified crime scene technician.
Any story, like a really cool story you want to talk about on any type of investigation that you worked that you found extremely interesting and people reacted to it without going into like extreme amount of detail?
I mean, where would you want me to start? But yes, there is one in particular. So a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to help out. There was a case where we had a missing individual located a vehicle.
Okay.
It was in water systems, so it was full of mud and debris. Okay. And Sid probably knows with forensics, anytime you have something like that, you have to sift through it all by hand because you can't miss anything. It's very, very meticulous, lots of hard work. This happened in the dead of summer. It was hot. But we had to use our resources, and, it's pretty basic, just use buckets to collect things and go from there. Well, we ran out of buckets. So I was sent to Lowe's to acquire more buckets. So I bought like 70 buckets with the
We're not talking about little buckets
credit
either.
card. No, we're not talking about little buckets. They were
the 5
gallon buckets.
Okay.
Had carts loaded with them, and I go to the checkout counter and I'm covered in mud. I have boots on, just dirty. I probably smelled awful too, just everything in my hair. I didn't care. I was ready to get back into the AC. And the little girl behind the checkout counter there, she's just like scanning, just happy-go-lucky. She's like, "What are you doing with all these buckets?" I was like, "Oh, I'm probably going to put some body parts in them." Stop it. And she's like, just blank stare. She's like, "What?"
What?
And I didn't repeat myself because I was waiting for someone to come out of the back, like, all concerned and everything. And I was like,
"You're a serial killer."
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess go back to like your experience in each one of those, and I'll give you time, but like in each one of those disciplines that you were in the agency that you were in, was there anything that you were like, man, this is my wheelhouse, not just professionally, but like for me in the way I think and the way I process information, this is what I really, really enjoy?
Oh yeah. Investigations 100%.
Okay. Tell us why.
Well, honestly, I would recommend everybody take a stab at investigations because the things you learn in regards to the different codes of, law. Like as a patrol officer, you don't think in depth about codes because it's a lot of the same thing, like domestics or traffic stuff, where investigations, you're dealing with all types of
crime.
things. Yeah.
Like actual crime.
Yeah. And you're deep diving it and you're learning so much about different charges you can do. And so it's a wealth of knowledge. And even when I went back into the field, like that was very helpful to the patrol officers because I'm like, hey, you can actually charge for this or that. And I liked investigations because I feel like you actually get to see the reward of bringing justice to somebody.
Right.
And I feel like it used like multi factors of your brain at the same time, which I enjoyed.
Which you're good at.
Yeah.
So are there any cases that you can talk about or that you've thought about that were like, this is really rewarding? I'll even preface this by saying like one that I had one when I was in Bedford. And it was a sexual assault victim. And it was just a photo. And I tracked her all the way back to North Carolina. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most is like, it was just like a job for me. Like I'm going to track this person down. I found her. I got all this information together. It was a lot to put it to trial. But at the end of the trial, for me, I was like, this dude got like 10 years. This is nothing. And she came up to me and she said, I never thought that somebody would come back and like actually care what happened to me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you. And like, that was worth more than anything I possibly could have done in my career. Cause like, here's somebody that is just like, man, the systems forgot me and everything else. Any cases like that for either of y'all that you think about?
I mean, I think it's the same line, like a sexual assault victim. Because let's face it, like a lot of times they're not believed. And so just giving somebody the time of day and the effort, and you never know which way it's going to go in court. And the one I'm thinking about, we actually lost that in court, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just the reality of sexual assault cases in court.
Right.
And she was so thankful. Like you said, just...
You believe me.
Yeah. Like you gave me the chance, like, and it was a historical rape. And just the fact that you were willing to investigate and try, like, it meant a lot to her.
No, that's...
So just like things like that.
Yeah. Jordan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much the same situation. You know, and it's sad, really, when you talk to victims and they're like, well, I don't see the point because no one's going to believe me or no one's going to care because it's so easy to say these things like this happened. And I'm like, but, you know, not really, because, I mean, you're a victim. I mean, why can't we work it? You know, why can't we help you? Just because you think no one's going to believe you. I mean, that's always been so sad to me. So to help someone like that, I mean, it means a lot, you know, to take it all the way to the end. I recently had a case, happened probably 3 years ago, and it was pretty violent, sexual assault. I mean, it was horrible, you know, interviewing this person because I wanted to cry with her. Mm-hmm. But, you know, being a female, of course, you know, that's another thing, quick to emotion. But, you know, you kind of have to stay strong and everything. So, you know, when he was convicted and sentenced, it was a great feeling for not only for me, but like I just felt like so great for her because she can finally start learning to live in peace again.
So I guess like from my standpoint, when I hear you talk about cases like that, and I think about like all the things that we go through on cases and just getting them ready for court and prepared for court, I just wonder from your standpoint in the way that you work cases, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right way to word it. And, but like cases, I don't think people appreciate the level of violence and the things that happen. So there's two things I want to do. My wife has told me I need to like compartmentalize. You get it with the Skittles and everything else. We'll tell you that story later. ADHD. One thing I want to talk about is what you've seen on the street as far as like in your job, like the level of violence and just the vile things one human will do to another. But I also want to think about like with the way law enforcement is right now, how many victims do we have out there that are like, I'm not even going to bother. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm not going to be interviewed. I'm not going to put myself out there because they're going to lose. All they care about is driving around. So first, I want to talk about like the vile things that like, how do you react to that as a wife and a mother and as a wife going home? Like dudes can go home and, you know, whatever, but like you are supposed to be the softer side of that marriage, correct? Isn't that the expectation? Yeah, but that's the
expectation. Have you talked to our husband?
Yeah. But that's the expectation. The expectation is like, my wife is supposed to be the safe place for me to land, the soft place for me to land. But like you are dealing with the vilest of the vile. How do you deal with that?
It's kind of hard to answer that because I can say like pre-child, like before I had my son.
Talk about being a mother.
Completely different.
All right, as a mother.
So when I was a detective, I can't even tell you how many infant deaths, which are like devastating to begin with, right? But I was able to handle that, right?
You could separate yourself.
Exactly.
Because you've never had a child.
Yes. And I was always like, I didn't know that child. Like that's how I kind of thought about it, right?
Right.
But now I have a son and like the thought it just hits so different. And people used to tell me that years ago. And I was like, whatever, you just need to do a better job at, you know, putting it in that box, but you really can't. And so it's hard and it makes me, like paranoid, almost like in a sense of, like my son going to daycare because I've investigated daycares and like the stress of that, or like the stress of, you know, what, you know, my son just turned 2 and it's like, he can have nothing in his crib, like nothing, like, and then it's just like, you know, you don't want your children having social medias or cell phones or sleepovers. And so just trying to be responsible but not be psycho about it. It's really hard. And yeah,
I think what's hard, I think for me, what is hard is like, it is the connection as a father to a child is nothing compared to the connection to someone who carried a child, you know? And so I do think that it's totally, I think about these dudes that are like, yeah, this is horrible. I know I couldn't do it. I couldn't imagine multiply that by the amount of time that you actually carry a child. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's hard. And especially if it's just, recently we've had some very violent child crimes, and I wasn't even directly involved, but just dealing with an aspect in which I had to be involved was just like crushing. I remember like calling my husband and just being like, this is just awful. Like, because I can't imagine somebody doing that to an infant, and then yet here we are. It's just mind blowing to me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. I know it's not easy for you. I thought you were going to do the Smitty thing, and like, I got to pull it together. No, you did good. What about you, Jordan? As a wife, I mean, I feel like, I mean, you say like I have to be tough, but like there's still that expectation. Both of y'all are in public service. What is?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a very protective person, so I never want to like burden anybody with my feelings, because it's like, man, like I don't want anyone else to be upset by this. So I do the whole box thing and just try to like push it to the back of my mind, and that works for a little bit. But you know, you find it kind of like sneaks up on you because I mean,
when you least expect it.
Yeah. I mean, like. Sometimes, you know, a few years ago, I was invited at my church to get up and do like a little law enforcement. It wasn't a celebration, it was like an appreciation. And I wrote a little speech and got up in front of my church. And like I was just talking, like having a good time, like reading my paper. And like out of nowhere, I just started bawling, crying. I don't know why. Like it just.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
The latest incident that I had to go talk to some professionals. And one of the things that they told me, that's called bleeding. You've put it in a box, but eventually it's going to leak out. And that's what it is. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to be like, okay, you've seen all this trauma. You've gone through all this trauma. At some point, it's got to leak out because you don't have any place for it to go. You stay so busy. You go on and on and on. And like you get in that routine, it's coming out.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't come out at a really good time.
Oh, no. And in law enforcement, you know, you could be having a totally normal day. You could be like eating your favorite meal or telling a joke. And then all of a sudden you're on your way to see something horrible, you know, and it's like, that's not normal. I'm very fortunate because I have a very supportive husband. You know, he's never held me back. He's always encouraged me to do what I want to do. He's always a listening ear if I want to talk about it. You know, he's a first responder, so he sees some things too. So, you know, I'm very lucky that I have him as that support system.
Okay. But you...
And I feel like I feel like I shout out Reggie because she just praised her husband up and down.
I don't praise him all the time. I promise.
They're newly married.
That's true.
Yeah, they'll get over it. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about like the way that you work cases and everything else, and where law enforcement is right now. My personal feeling, and obviously it's just my feeling, but it is my show, so I'm going to tell you how I feel. And the way I feel about it is I think people don't expect anything from us anymore. They look at us as an extension of the government, like the government as a whole, the bad government that taxes them, that doesn't care about what they do or anything else. And we further that by putting out Facebook post about us changing tires and doing stuff like that. Nobody's going out there and actually addressing crime, in my opinion. I was in a big city not long ago, and the guy's like, yeah, we pretty much don't do anything. Like we have like an agreement with the gangs and everything else. We're not going out. When I say agreement, I'm saying like from a standpoint of like, we're not going to go in there and stir the pot.
Yeah.
Don't leave a bunch of bodies on the street. And so without going into detail, because you're both still in it, but is that what you see in law enforcement in general? Is like, we're going to play it safe. We're going to write you a ticket. But as far as us being proactive and going out there and actually doing something, it's a scary place. You don't have to answer that. It's just answer it in a way that is most comfortable for you with the people you work for, because I know there are people in different agencies. Let's just talk about it as a whole. Like, when you go to the academy? Like, are these people prepared to like actually go out there and interdict and
Like,
go after crime?
Like straight from the academy?
Well, just in general.
I'm trying to like think of how to answer it.
I think it's changed. I think, we would hope so, but the media and a lot of these other things have kind of put, a totally different picture in people's heads, I think.
Well, and I think it's like kind of frustrating because I see what goes on behind closed doors in the investigative division and whatnot. And I can see how hard they're working. I can see what they're doing. But because the cases are ongoing or whatever, like we can't share that information. So to the public's eye, it looks like we're not doing shit, but that's really not the case. It's just we just can't tell you what we're doing.
So how do we have an honest conversation with the general public to say, we're working on it, we still have stuff that we need to get done? How do we have that conversation in a way that it doesn't give away an investigation, but it also makes them aware like you're not going to have to worry. Like, yes, we're at a standstill and justice takes time, but at the end of the day, we still care about what happens in our communities. We're just retooling this and trying to make it work. Is that?
I think some of it too is like an educational piece because the public watches these crime scene shows and they think like results are instant, and that is far from reality. I mean, if somebody goes for an autopsy, it can take 2 months before we get the autopsy report, and sometimes we cannot do anything until we have that report. Mm-hmm. So it's just some educational pieces. Like if you send DNA to the lab, it's not like boom bam and you done and we got a result. It's like months and months and months later, we're getting hit. And so I think some of that is just like educational pieces. But then I think also bottom line is like some people, like you're never going to make them happy. And you just have to have the knowledge that like you're doing everything that you can, and basically like don't worry about the outside noises.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
I mean, being an investigator is one of the hardest jobs because you always want to do the best job, but sometimes it's just not there. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes a case can't be solved. Maybe ever, maybe not right now, and it's hard, but it's not your fault, and unfortunately, I mean, there's all kinds of things like I would love to talk about and let people know like, hey, this is why, just calm down, but you can't because then you've ruined the whole thing and it's completely gone at that point.
And we don't have an example of a case like that locally at all, but anyway, that's a different story for a different day.
Well, and that's like another thing too, is like it's not just like the police, it's like the Commonwealth attorney, sometimes they need stuff that like we just can't give them, and it's like all these factors, but unfortunately the law enforcement tends to take all the blame.
All right, well, let's talk about the law enforcement. Let's talk about law enforcement taking the blame. So like from my standpoint, one of the things I struggle with is I hear people talk about like, well, that's a bad cop. This is a bad cop. This is a bad cop. But like, what are we doing with the ones that are actually, like bad? When I say bad, like they do a horrible job. They don't really care about the public they serve, and they are using that job for their own benefit. What do we do, like in general terms, to like weed these people out? Because like it is a struggle for me because I feel like we always should look out for each other. Mm-hmm. But there are people that are doing like really dirty things that are in this occupation. And it to me, it causes me, like when I look at my badge, I'm like, I'm not like you. Mm-hmm. Like you might have the same badge as me, but like the way that you just handled that case is not even from a humanity standpoint the right thing to do, much less as somebody that's supposed to be fixing this for somebody. I don't know. Like, I know that's a tough one, but like in general terms, what is that?
Well, I think one thing is decertification.
Okay.
But that obviously, of course, you have to meet certain standards, but they did recently change that because I would get frustrated being personal recruiting. I was in charge of my agency's recruits that were in the academy.
Okay.
And, if you're in the academy and you lie, whatever, like you're still fired, but you wouldn't be decertified because you're not technically sworn.
So you haven't gotten that official DCGS certification?
Yeah, so you couldn't decertify. Well, now they've changed that.
Okay.
And so like if you are fired in the academy for lying or whatever the criteria is that matches the decertification, now your agency can file for you to be decertified. So like you won't have the opportunity. I think that's where we mess up, is like you leave and then you can go on to a sheriff's office or wherever and you kind of slip under the you slip through the cracks, where now like you can file decertification for those that are in the academy and still training and whatnot, which I think is helpful. But I also think it's on every agency to do a proper hiring process and a real background, and not one of these like just phoning a friend and being like, oh yeah, you good, all right, cool. Like, I mean, like a real background.
So did you work in background investigations?
It was part of my personal recruiting experience in that unit.
All right, so what does it look like? What does a good background check look like?
So it would be like a personal history statement, which is like in depth, like we're asking you all types of questions in regards to drug history. Have you ever been involved in a number of things? All right. Then you're going to a polygraph. And then from the polygraph, you're going into a background investigation. And then we use the background, and people don't understand like that background is compared to your poly, compared to your personal history statement to make sure there's no
deviation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then our background investigation, like they are speaking to your parents, your roommates, your girlfriends, husbands, ex-fiancés, if need be,
so it's
employees, co-workers. They are, if you're a sworn individual, they are going to your agency and pulling IA files and speaking to a lot of people. Okay. Sometimes Commonwealth attorneys, like they're going in depth to make sure like you meet our standards.
And so it's the depth of the interview. It's not just taking one person's word for it. It is what both of you have proven really good at, which is like, okay, here's my surface. I'm going to go 3 layers down. Mm-hmm. And like,
and I can tell you, like, not everybody has the same hiring standards in regards to doing that in-depth and background investigation. And I've seen it from people we've turned down that go to other agencies, and I'm like, because for example, like if somebody applies with us and we find out they've applied with the surrounding jurisdictions, like we also go to them, say, hey, what'd they put on your application, to make sure it lines up. And I can tell you not everybody is doing that.
Okay. What about you?
Well, I can say when I went through the background process, I mean, they called everybody. I had friends calling me. They're like, yo, the police just called me. Like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to get a job, actually. So I hope you did your best. But right. Yeah. And I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's one of those things. For me, it's always been really frustrating because it seems like we promote people instead of calling them out. So it's kind of a waste because you have these, if you want to call them, bad cops or ones that don't live up to the standards. They fly under the radar.
They're not workers, so they don't get complaints.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They don't put themselves out there. They play it safe inside their car. Mm-hmm. They know more about the information about their fellow officers than they do about the criminals. Right. And but they're clean by the time they hit that next level.
And that's when the problem comes out, though, because you can skate by, just being whatever. But once you get promoted, it's going to come out eventually. And by then, it's too late. So now, you have all these problems. You have people on leave, you might have to fire somebody, and we're back at square one. So it's like, for me, my question's always been, why can't we start strong? That way we can avoid, losing officers and having to put people on leave and having to do investigations and facing, negative media. Why don't we just put forth all that extra effort in the beginning? Mm-hmm. Instead of wasting all this time and resources,
When I think sometimes people struggle with having crucial conversations, they get uncomfortable.
Women aren't good at crucial conversations. Never mind. Take that back. Y'all are like really, really good at it, because I think I don't know why. I mean, why are y'all so much better of having those honest conversations? Like what you describe, like if you go up to a dude and are like, hey, are you okay? They're going to be like, yeah, I'm fine. But like, if you go up, y'all will tell like, no, I feel like shit. Like, I don't like this. I don't like the way this is going. Tell me about that. Like, what is it like to be in that situation?
Well, I think that's just comes down to like, one, how you were raised, and two, like societal expectations. Like, I'm sure you feel like you need to be like manly, don't talk about your feelings, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Where like, I feel like you ask me a question, I'll tell you. Well, if I like you and I'm friends with you, then yeah, I'll tell you. But like, if we ain't like that, then yeah, I'm fine too. Cool. See you later.
But y'all, it seems like from what I have, and maybe it's just more exposure to strong women like you, it is like y'all are more apt to say, like, I remember Jordan before coming into my office and shutting the door and being like, we have a problem. And I was like, what? No, we don't. I was like, I don't want to get under the desk and hide. Like, if she's coming in here, something's really bad. And I remember the project that you worked on with the schools, and like, you just kept running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle when it's a very clear thing. You were trying to make the school safer. And they're like, you're hurting my feelings because you're getting it done. I was giving it for 2 years and I didn't do anything on it, but I'm getting it done. So I don't know, like from your standpoint, going back to like, I'm being a bitch, I'm doing this. Like, how do you power through that?
I call it 5 foot nothing syndrome.
Okay.
And I definitely have that.
Okay.
Because
but you have heels, right?
Yeah. I mean, the tinier you are, it seems just like it just comes out. And I don't know if it's like a defense mechanism. Like, I feel like I need to be tough because I'm not, very strong or tall, but it's just one of those things. I just have always stood my ground, and I'm like, if something's not right, I'm going to say something. If we need to fix something, we're going to fix it now because I don't want to be bothered with this again.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Like, I feel like sometimes I feel that's when I get frustrated because I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's make a decision. I've got it figured out. Like, let's roll with it. And it's just like.
So I'm going to give you a scenario that my sweet wife gave me not long ago. And she was like, you dudes have meetings that last forever. Like, she's like, roll. Can you just like.
Bullet point it. Let's go.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So talk about what that's like to sit in meetings and you're like, can we please just get to the point? Like, I don't know what y'all are doing. So
you like have meetings about meetings and like and I'm like, this was a waste of my time. Like, nothing was nothing progressed from this. No decisions were made, and it's like everybody's just trying to see who has and it's just like let's go.
Finish that thought.
No, I took it back.
No, but it's like it's a measuring contest. Like, who is the smartest person? Who's the most tactical? Who's this? Who's that?
It can be.
But like, for y'all, what is it? It is just like, what is the job? What is it that you want me to do? And how do we get there?
Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about what that looks like to be in a room full of people and you're like, and it is an exposure thing to me. It's an exposure thing to me. I had some positive experiences with some of the females that I've worked with, but like then the other ones, I'm like, how did you get this job? But then I run into Jordan over there and I'm like, every time something is assigned to her, she comes back with something that's better. Same thing with you is like when I call, I know you have your jokes about when I come to where you're at, but like in all honesty, I knew if I called you, like you would tell me what the deal was and make it work. And so what is it like to be sitting in a meeting with a bunch of people talking and you're like, stop, like I have an answer, like I want to raise my hand. Like,
well, so it depends. Like if I'm in a room full of captains and my upper command staff, it's probably not the time to. But
you ever pull them to the side?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
But you've earned that. To me, I feel like you've earned that right. And I feel like they do respect you because like you've been right.
Well, and I feel like I would hope, and I think like my supervision knows, like if they give me a task, like I'm going to get it done and it's going to get done quickly and it's going to be right. And they're going to be happy with the product.
Okay.
So I feel like because I've shown that when we're in a meeting about something and I have, an idea or whatever to talk about later, like they will listen and they're like, yeah, you're right. Like run with it and show it to me when it's complete.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
I've just never been a fan of meetings.
I don't like them either.
I'm just very like quick to the point. And if I'm hungry, everybody's in danger. So that better be a short meeting because I'm like,
what you're saying is if you're going to have a meeting, you better have snacks.
Yes.
If you're going to extend my stay,
yes,
there's going to be snacks.
Oh yeah. I've had people like try and talk to me and they're like, are you hungry? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, never mind. Well, I'll talk to you after you eat. I'm like, good choice.
Yeah.
Because that's a given.
I might get a better answer.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if this is a question that y'all can answer. And if it isn't, we'll move on to another question. But like, what do you think from your standpoint, where are we at in law enforcement currently and how can we get better? And I'll preface it by saying what we talked about earlier, which is you have these kids that have all these talents. You both worked in investigations. You know how labor intensive it is. Why are we not going to these colleges with these kids that know how to use social media, know how to do all these things? Why are we taking them, recruiting them, and putting them in a police car when they could act as a force multiplier of 3 officers? Because like I think about law enforcement right now, what are we doing different? Like we have technology in our cars. We type on our computers. We have like lights that show up at night, all this different stuff. But like realistically, what are we doing differently? Are we giving our patrol officers, hey, these are people that I am looking for. This is what I need and everything else. Are we getting that information out there?
So at my agency, yes, because I'm sure you're familiar. Like it's different styles of policing and it always kind of changes. And yeah. So
Okay.
we have a new model of policing, which we get like I can't think of what it's called right now, but an email gets sent out to everybody. Like these are like prolific offenders, like, so and everybody's designated.
So it's called targeted enforcement. That's the incorrect.
Wow.
That's the politically incorrect, but that is like, these are the people that are committing the crimes. This is the kind of crimes they're committing. You as a patrol officer, this is what you need. This is situational awareness. This is what you need to look for.
Yeah, and everything's broken up into sectors, and there's, certain people are in charge of certain sectors and problem areas. Like, for example, if this one area has had a ton of vehicle larcenies, like they are sent to pretty much address that, whether
So
it's
they
like
saturate
DPs or whatever. It's more like intelligence-led policing.
And okay, all right.
So
I like the way you worded it. There you go. Go ahead.
So I try to use my powers for good and not evil. But, I graduated from Lynchburg College, which is now the University of Lynchburg. And
Is that because of you or no?
No, that was not because of me.
All right.
But, I get to go back to the criminology department and I get to guest appear in some of these courses and talk about things, and I'm very blessed because I've done patrol, I've done investigations, I've done crime prevention, SRO. So I have like all kinds of knowledge about those things. So some of the students, that are genuinely want to know and are in that program, because the way you said it earlier, TV depicts it like, oh, I'm going to graduate college and go right in the FBI. Like that's not realistic. You got to know what you're doing before you get to that level. So I'm just brutally honest with them. I'm like, this is how it is. It's going to suck for about 3 years. But if you can hold on, and I mean genuinely hold on, because like anybody can grab the bull by the horns, it's the holding on part that's hard. And I just tell them that. I'm like, but if you really want it, you can do it. And once you level out and you get that experience, you can pretty much go in whatever direction you want to go. It's just staying dedicated to it and holding on.
So I guess my next question is, so where you're at, like both of y'all are using your knowledge and the power that you have with the knowledge and also who you are as individuals to make things better. So how does law enforcement continue to get better? I guess I have a very jaded view of law enforcement from a standpoint of I see dudes riding around hoping they're going to bump into something. And then when they do, they really don't know what to do with it when they get there. So I guess like I would like to have you back like in about 2 years to see if the way that you're doing things are working. Do you see results yet, or we're just in the startup?
I think it's too new to really.
But conceptually, it sounds amazing. So
I would like to think it's working.
Is it SID approved? Just kidding. Just kidding.
I like the idea of it.
It's a
but
great
like you
idea.
said, I want to see like the stats and the data and well, I think also bottom line too is like we have all these things, but that requires staffing. And as you know, it's like very hard to get staffing. It's very hard to get people to stay. Now, when they say you're recruiting, you're not recruiting for the 20-year veteran. You're recruiting for somebody that's going to be there for like 5 years. Like what work are you going to get out of them in 5 years?
Yeah. And how much do you invest in somebody that's passing through?
Yeah. So I think that's like one thing. I'm sure every agency would say that. Like, I wish we had more staffing so we can do more and be involved more. So that's what I hope in the next like you said, in the next 2 years, I hope we have a little bit more staffing to maybe do some of these things, to be more hands-on and more proactive. Because when you're short-staffed, sometimes all you can be is reactive because you just don't have the staffing to do what you need to do.
But here's a question.
Okay.
This is a tough one. The tough one is, how much of all that is related to the individual though? Because like from my standpoint, I've worked with people where they just look really pitiful. And when they go in there and they're like what you said, like a sector, like your sector is getting beat and you're not doing anything. We've given you all the tools. At what point do we pull the trigger and go, you're not accomplishing your mission. We need to find something else for you to do. So like for you as the leaders coming up, how do you hold people accountable? Like what is the measure? Like you have this great concept, but what is the measure of like, hey, you're doing a really good job? Because what I've seen in law enforcement is, man, he writes a lot of tickets. He is proactive. And that's not I mean, no offense to anybody that writes tickets.
The traffic unit's like going to be coming for you now.
Yeah. I got a lot of people. But no, in all honesty, like I understand that, but like that is you're exactly right. Your traffic unit, that's what it's for. Like they're looking for DUIs, they're looking for all these other things. But your average officer on the street that goes, I can either serve a warrant, that's your department calling.
Yeah, probably.
No, you can either be proactive, go out, serve warrants, go out there and actually deal with criminals, or you can deal with somebody that likes to drive fast. You know, I mean, you have a traffic unit that is for that. Like from my standpoint, law enforcement is much deeper than that. It is being part of the community and getting in there and rooting out the criminals.
Well, I think I think it's not one thing. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's, again, crucial conversations. Like, is the supervisor having important conversations with their officers that maybe are not performing at the level that they should be?
Okay.
2, it's morale. And as if that supervision is leading the charge, then their officers are going to fall in line. And if you have the majority of your shift or platoon that's go-getters, they're getting deep into, gang activity or the firearm charges or whatever, then like we talked about before, they're either going to get on the train or they're going to get the fuck out. So, I mean, I think those are key components, is just those things.
Top-down movement.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, everybody wants a little bit of recognition to a certain point. And I think that's part of the problem is you have these hard workers that are going out here and they're like busting their tail, doing everything they can to be a good officer, and they're trying to learn. But, because some supervisors, they might be overwhelmed or they might be burnt out, they're not recognizing their officers. And I'm not saying give them a participation trophy or anything by that, but every now and then, give them a little support, give them a little pat on the back. Like, hey, I noticed that arrest last week and the investigation that followed, that's really good for a patrol officer. Keep it up, encouragement along the way. I mean, it goes a long way because rookie officers are like kids, they really are
100%,
and it's not an insult, but I mean, it's true. You're looking for validation and you're looking to be successful.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think too, especially like with this younger generation, they want to know the why behind it. And if they can understand the why and support that why, they'll be all about it.
It's interesting you said that. As the Liberty students that we brought on here, I asked them that. I was like, how do we engage your generation? And they said, set guardrails and tell us what we need to do. Your idea, like, obviously there is a way from point A to point B, but if you just give them guardrails and say, come up with an idea and fix it, most of them can, a lot of them can do that. So,
yeah.
Phenomenal talk. I really do appreciate both y'all coming on. I hope neither one of you get in trouble. But in all honesty, like both of y'all work at phenomenal agencies. I personally know, I don't know a lot with yours, but like with yours, like you have some really good people at your department, top down. And I appreciate the fact that like you are like the core of what's trying to make it better. And for both of y'all, like you with where you're working and you, what you're doing, you're changing it. Like you really are. Like, it might not feel like it some days, but you really are. And, I appreciate everything y'all have done and what you're going to do. So I'm retiring soon.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Haven't you been saying that for like 5 years?
We'll believe that when we see it.
Exactly.
All right.